Jump in the water with them and float. Hold their hand and float with them. That's the best place to start. Do you think the concept of demand avoidance might be a survival mechanism in certain environments? If so, how? Please bear with me while I engage autistic processing. I need a little bit of time to churn over the language and make sense of it. Do I think the concept of demand avoidance might be a survival mechanism in certain environments? If so, how? Yes, but we have to take it back a step because demand avoidance isn't always PDA. There are so many variations of what demand avoidance is. You can be ADHD and have executive functioning challenges and then engage a form of demand avoidance. You can be in burnout and be demand avoidant, whether you're neurodivergent or not. And you can be autistic and have autistic inertia, which can result in demand avoidance. There are so many different reasons for demand avoidance, so many variations and origins of demand avoidance, and not all of those are pathological demand avoidance or PDA. Do I think that the concept of demand avoidance might be a survival mechanism? Of course. Absolutely. The whole premise of this is the threat response. What we talk about predominantly when we're discussing PDA, unfortunately, because our focus is on behaviour and the terminology pathological demand avoidance comes from that one part of who a PDA is, and that is the demand avoidance on pathological levels. So when we're talking about PDA, most of the time we're talking about that, the demand avoidance. We're looking at the fact that our nervous system is highly activated. We're looking at the fact that we engage in these strategies of resistance and we avoid demands. The threat response has a huge part in that: fight, flight, freeze or fawn. But I wouldn't say that it's a survival mechanism in terms of feeling unsafe all the time. If we take the term survival mechanism or just survival, most people would hear that and think survival means that we are staying alive. For some of us, survival might be running away from something that's frightening. And for others, survival might be throwing a toilet roll on the bathroom floor to allow us to be able to use the toilet. And these are things that are hidden unless you really understand a PDA brain. When we think about demand avoidance as a survival mechanism, we're thinking about the more obvious behaviours that come with demand avoidance, which might be not picking up our toys because it's a demand. And so we might say they're PDA, picking up toys is stressful for them, it's a demand, so that's fine. But then there are other things too, like the example I just gave. I did a masterclass on toileting a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking about how we're so accustomed to understanding things like a PDA child who uses the toilet and throws the rolls on the ground instead of hanging them up. We're so accustomed to seeing that as an unacceptable behaviour and as a problem. And we're so supported as parents and carers to constantly look for problems in our children and fix them. What would be missed there is that when we're talking about this, balancing, equalising, equitable access, using the toilet as a demand puts us down here. Throwing the toilet roll on the floor brings us back up here and allows us to use the toilet. So there's two very different ways of understanding that behaviour. And so when we're talking about whether demand avoidance is a survival mechanism, yes, in many different ways. And the examples I've just given are just a few.